Much of the focus heading into the Jets' Week 15 matchup versus the Lions was the return of Zach Wilson under center. However, in the Jets' 20-17 loss to Detroit on Sunday, the Jets' defense, well, they folded late in the fourth quarter. So let's discuss what went wrong for Gang Green with New York Post sports columnist Mark Cannizzaro. Mark, how's it going?
I'm doing fine, Dex. Not as well as the Jet defense after that, that late game comedy of errors on that, on a really what was an inexcusable play.
Yeah, not a good day for the Jets defense and how it ended, and we're going to get to that, and also not a good day for the Jets fans. Now, Mark, what you're talking about right there, the Jets, they had taken a 17-13 lead with 4:41 left in the game, and then Brock Wright scored a 51-yard touchdown, and the Lions took a 20-17 lead with a $1:49 left. So on that play, what went wrong?
Well, the biggest thing that went wrong was the Jets weren't expecting that. It was a perfect call on the part of Dan Campbell and his offensive coordinator. They caught the Jets were in cover one. The tight end, who's not a pass catching tight end, he had 14 catches for like 141 yards all year. He kind of slipped out. He pretended like he was blocking because the Jets were expecting a run, and then he just squirted out to the left. Nobody covered him. The Jets were, obviously in a man-to-man covered situation. Somebody was supposed to go with him. I believe it was either Jordan Whitehead, the safety, or Quincy Williams, the linebacker. Both of those guys were kind of on the line of scrimmage, and it looked like they were going to engage with Wright, and then they both went after the running back, thinking it was a running play. Wright squirts out. He's completely wide open. He's got the entire left side of the field to run down, which also was quietly, made this play even really fantastic in terms of the way it was called and executed, because Detroit ran all of its receivers down the right side and deep. So they basically drew most of the Jets, back into the defense back down toward the goal line. So when Wright caught that ball, there was nobody in front of him. So he pretty much had a free run down, into the end zone. By the time he got down near the end zone, the Jets couldn't tackle him. So it was the perfect, as I said, the story I wrote for tomorrow's paper, it was the perfect call against the perfect defense at really the most imperfect time for the Jets, because it really derailed what was, looking like it was going to be a pretty good result for them after they'd gone ahead 17-13.
Yeah, it looked like it was going to be a good day, and then it turned out not to be, which is very disappointing, as we have said, for Jets fans. Now, let's talk a little about Zach Wilson, Mark. He played well enough, particularly in the fourth quarter, for the Jets to win. So do you put this loss on the defense, or do you think Wilson could have done more earlier so that the defense wasn't in the position that they were late in the game?
I do. I don't mean this to be a non-answer, like Serby, who doesn't give you any, proper answers, okay? But it really was a little bit of both, Dex. But at the end of the day, this is on the defense. It's not on Zach. Zach Wilson is less the reason the Jets lost this game than the defense was because of that last drive. At the end of the day, Zach Wilson gives them, a lead, with a shade over 2 minutes left to go in the game, or whatever the number was. And the Jets defense couldn't. I mean, listen, at worst, the Jets defense should give up a field goal there, at worst, right? It just was really, really, it was a bad sequence by a Jet defense that's played extremely well this year. And in fairness, as Robert Saleh said after the game, is a big reason the Jets are in the position they've been in, which was over 500 until this afternoon. But I listen, Zach did not play great. Okay. He had his moments. I thought he was slinging the ball way too hard to some receivers. He showed a lack of touch in a number of areas. He also had some passes that were just sailing over guys' heads. You almost weren't even sure who they were intended for. But at the same time, he also made some pretty gutsy and clutch throws as well. So, you can't really. I don't grade him with a terrible grade, but I certainly don't. It wasn't a great game by any means for him, but he was less the reason the Jets lost this game than the defense.
All right, so this one on the defense. And look, we've said it before, it's a tough loss for the Jets. They're now 7-7, and the road to the postseason, as you know, Mark, is much harder for Gang Green now. Are you confident that this team can still make the playoffs?
I don't think they're making the playoffs. No, I think the road is too difficult. First of all, they have to run the table, and that's going to include a road game in Seattle. Well, let's start with Thursday. They're playing Thursday against a Jacksonville team that just beat the Cowboys. right? So, I mean, this Detroit-Jacksonville, 2-game run for in these 4 days looked like they were going to be semi-layups for the Jets. When we looked at that schedule early, now the Lions have turned a 1-6 start into 7-7. And Jacksonville's playing very good football. Trevor Lawrence is looking now like the number one pick he was, and they just beat Dallas. So the Jets have to get through that. And if they do get through Jacksonville in 4 days and shake off this devastating disappointment from today, then they go to Seattle, which is one of the most difficult places to play in, just in terms of road. I know the Seahawks aren't playing great football right now, but that's a tough place to play. And then the last game is in Miami, and Miami's probably going to need that game. Not to mention the Jets, have the and on top of all of that, not to be so negative, because I don't like to be so negative like this on a Sunday, but the Jets need so much help now, and the problem is, they're tied in their own division with the Patriots, who had a horrific loss today, but the Patriots have swept the Jets, so they're already beat the Jets on a tiebreaker. The Chargers, who also won today, have a 1-game lead on the Jets, and they beat the Jets on tiebreaker with a better conference record. So the Jets are in a terrible tie-breaking situation as well. So even if they win their next 3, they're still going to need help. So I just think the odds are stacked too heavily against them. Today was a really, really big swing game. I wrote a column this week saying if they couldn't get through today and Thursday with wins, they probably don't deserve to be in the playoffs. And that's kind of where they sit right now, in my opinion.
Yeah, and they sit right now not controlling their own destiny. As you said, quick turnaround for them Thursday night against Jacksonville. We'll see how they do, Mark. That is Mark Cannizzaro, New York Post sports columnist. Mark, thank you for your time, your insight on the Jets, and we'll see how things go, and happy holidays to you.
Same to you, Dex. Thanks for having me.
Thank you.